Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Kenny Conversation, brought to you by JEGS, the leader in high performance aftermarket car parts. Remember to go to jegs.com for everything and anything you need. I'm honored today. I really am because, anytime you get somebody that's done it all and they're disciplined, uh, the great and my dear friend Donny Schatz, King Donny, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good today. Last weekend really helped. It's been kind of a atrocious year, and um, I guess anytime you can win a marquee event, but let alone multiple, it's been pretty crazy. So still feel like I'm can be a big factor in racing with the World of Outlaws. So it feels good today, and obviously we get to get back on the racetrack tomorrow and see if we can keep that momentum going.
So I hear in your voice, and listen, Donnie, we're going to get to that in a little bit. I understand what it's like to be as good as you are, not win as much as you want, feel a little lesser. Do I still got it? But let's talk about that in a little bit. Kenny Conversation is just that. We can go anywhere. But let's talk about the good times, and then we'll talk about how hard it is to stay fast every race. But let's just talk about the whole Eldora weekend. But let's go with the big win. Donnie, you win. Let me get my glasses on. I got to tell everybody your stats. It's my job to make you feel good, buddy. Listen, King Donny Schatz, 45 years old, six-time winner. Six. There we go. Six. Six-time winner of the King's Royal. You win one more of these King's Royal and you tie Steve Kinser. Not just that, you are an 11-time Knoxville Nationals winner, which is the biggest race you all run. 10-time World of Outlaw champion. Now I'm just going to stop there because everybody will get tired. You've done it all. Okay. Let's talk about this race. The track conditions were insane. What was going through your mind when you said, oh my God, they're going to go ahead and run this race and it's been raining all day, all night? What were you thinking?
Well, it all starts with we all have phones. We all have these preconceived notions of it's going to rain because it says 80% chance of rain, but is that 80% chance for an hour or two? I mean, we all become weather experts. So I think that kind of drugs some of the atmosphere away from what actually happened. I mean, it rained in the afternoon from 3 to 4 o'clock and it had a few pop-up showers, but the way Eldora had been fast all week, it was a pretty demanding racetrack. Even when we thought it slicked up, and there was guys able to run around there wide open. So having got all that moisture, we knew it was going to be that sort of a racetrack. And I think there was 67 cars. Maybe I'm wrong there, but um, under King's Royal format, you all qualify against each other, and the racetrack really stayed fairly well throughout the whole thing because it was fast. It was, quick time was a 12.8. We drew an 81, so we were a couple cars from the end and ended up qualifying 24th. So I didn't feel like that was too bad because most nights we're 2 to 2.5 tenths off of what quick time is. It's just kind of where we've been for the last 3-4 months. So you kind of have to take that into factor, as to what goes on, because I think people play games with the format at the King's Royal because they invert the heats, and it's all about winning that heat race. Once you get past the heat win, qualifying doesn't mean anything. So, yeah, it believe me, Kenny, at my age, 45, I don't look forward to running around track record speeds for 40 laps, but my guys did a phenomenal job of giving me a race car that was easy to drive in those conditions. We just sailed right around there, and I think a lot of it had to do with being in that 6 heat race and winning that. That put us on the pole, and we had clean air virtually the whole time. We didn't have any trouble getting through traffic. It was fairly choppy, but that's where clean air in our type of racing right now has a distinct advantage, and it was kind of that way all week long. So I wish we could go back and do those same things 2 days prior because the payday was more than 5 or 6 times more than what the Kings Royal was, but it was still a really good payday. It's still one of our marquee events and has a lot of history to it. And in front of a record crowd, I think that says a lot about the state of dirt track racing for us.
Man, I tell you what, there's three things that you just talked about. Number one, even when I go to Volusia now and we think it's dry or super fast, you know, where is all the grip coming from in these tracks that look dry? I noticed that. I go to a lot of promoters' workshops. I give motivational speeches. You know, keep the dust down, keep the dust down, keep the dust down. And I think along with that makes grip in the racetrack. So, you know, who knows what they're doing? Are they adding any chemicals anymore? I don't know. The other thing, you know, the elephant in the room, Donnie, who can sandbag properly? I don't know how to sandbag. If I sandbag, I'd miss the race. You know, did David Gravel sandbag? You know, the big money in racing now. These are all things that we want to get to. So let's start with the first one. And now you brought these up, and I like these. What's going on, in your opinion, with tracks that look dry but got enormous grip?
Well, I can't speak for any other cars other than what we have, but there
It's
has
the
been
same in ours.
yeah, it has, you know, there has been a change in the tires, you know. Last
Never
fall,
thought of that.
Hoosier went tire testing and they wanted to make a change because they hadn't in a long time. And we were kind of a part of that process. They heard we were going to go testing in Charlotte, so they sent us a couple sets of tires. And when we ran them, it wasn't per se a tire test. We were going there doing an engine test and trying to work on our car stuff. And after we did all that, we bolted these 2 sets of tires on, and I was like, wow, these things they're unhooked the cars. It kind of puts it back in the driver because sprint cars used to be the hardest to drive down the straightaway, not the corner. And man, I'm telling you, you had to be on your game down the straightaway. You couldn't just run in the corner wide open and the car be stuck. It was, you know, it was kind of everything was all floppy and moving around. It just wouldn't stick it like it did. So I thought, man, if they do that, they're going to go back. You know, the racing's going to change drastically. But then when they went and did a tire test, you know, that wasn't the actual direction they went. They obviously tried to make the product better, and you know what it's like when you do something different. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I think what we got going on is we actually have the cars stuck harder right now because we have the right rears are actually stuck harder on the car than they were previous, and the left rears aren't. And so a lot of racetracks we've seen this year where we're dragging the left rears through and just, you know, people don't lift anymore. We don't, the paces are so torrid. There's so much on the line. It's so competitive. Everybody's got good stuff that we're dragging these tires through, and we create our own rubber just from dragging left rear tires. And we've seen it for a good month or month and a half there. And people they know they got to do things to these racetracks to keep them speeded up and try to keep them from doing that. So that's where I think you're seeing a lot of that. No one wants to watch a rubber race, but I don't think anyone wants to watch a hammer down race either. So the most thankless job in this entire industry, in this entire sport, is track prep, track maintenance, promoting. It's not. I've been there and done it. It's not as easy as everyone says. I mean, you go to places that I think when they do water, it makes it sandier and dustier, but the fans don't really understand that side of it because they're not at racetracks every day. So the promoter does what the fans want, and that's great. They're what makes the world go round. So sometimes I think we're caught in that crossfire, whether it's, do we have a great show or do we just keep the dirt down? But as long as we got people in the stands, I think that's what's most important.
Yeah. So we're going to try as hard as we can to stay on that. You won the King's Royal. You're the king, King Donnie. But you talk so well, that reminds me of this. Something that I've been saying for about a year is my big brother, Rusty. I love Rusty. He's smart. He's a winner. Rusty says, Herman, it's sad to say, but you have to remind people, because if you don't, they remember what they want to. So I do want to remind everybody that your dad, a great man he was, invited me up to Fargo, and you and your dad promoted a race at the Fargo racetrack, USMTS modified race. And Donnie, I'm bragging on you right now. Your family taught you well, because when I went to that race, you were already great. But what I witnessed was you, your father, I don't know where your sister was or what was up, but you were in there icing beer down. You were running the event. That was your job. Where did this work ethic come from? Because I'm sitting there, I'm looking, damn, Donny Schatz icing beer down, working behind the counters. Is that what your family is all about?
Absolutely. That's how we were raised. Obviously, we're in the truck stop business, and that's where I'm at right now. That's where my office is at. I was able to take my father's office after he passed, but racing's something
Sorry
that
about that, Donnie. I loved your
we're-
dad. Great man.
Thanks, Kenny. Racing's something that we've, since I was old enough to do it, that's what we all enjoyed. My entire family. So when we had the Red River Valley Speedway, you had to do your part. People don't volunteer at racetracks anymore. It's all, you know how it works. It's just like any other job or any other industry. And I guess racing's just something that we took as next level. And we were able to have a lot of great people that were a part of it. And a lot of them work for us right here today and come from that racing background. So you do what you got to do. I don't think there's anyone in my family that'll tell you, well, I'm not going to do that. That's not part of my job description. There is no job description. It's whatever it takes. And especially when it comes to racing, there was no punches pulled. So, it was an honor to do it. It was something that also, because we had 4 members of our family that were passionate about racing, and we were all worked together in business, when we put it into racing, it got to be a little bit too much, because my father had an idea one way, I had an idea the other, and then you take in 2 females, my mom and my sister.
Oh boy.
It got to be a challenge. So
Men
I
are
can
from
honestly
Mars,
tell you,
women are from Venus.
yeah, when it wasn't a sad day when we couldn't do it anymore, because it allowed us to still race and do what we love to do, but yet step away from having racing as a business side and promoting. Because like I said, sometimes it doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes your biggest supporters can also be your biggest critics when you have a racetrack. And believe me, I enjoyed it. It was a good life lesson, but I don't know that it's a career path for me or anyone in my family.
Donnie, the world of dirt racing has wonderful, wonderful race fans. They love it, but they all go to work on Monday. Most of them do. As I look at you right now, I'm doing what any dirt racing fan would do. I'm looking at your files in the background. I'm looking at your folders. So I know you, but I'd like for you to give a glimpse of your lifestyle to everybody else. I admire you because I tell everybody, I said, listen, we interviewed, the big cat, Brad Sweet, and he said there's only about 3 or 4 of you that really make a good living. 7 do, that try to make a living. But Donnie, look at you right now. You're at the truck stop. You're a businessman. Fly your own plane. But I know dirt racing is a passion of yours. Can you paint, as they say on AM radio, paint the picture right now? Where are you at? What besides racing? What do you do for a living? Tell me about this truck stop business.
Well, Kenny, it all starts back to when I was younger. Out of high school is when I started with the World of Outlaws, and college wasn't a path for me. All I cared about was racing. I was going to race with the World of Outlaws and be a bum if that's what it took. It nothing else resonated. And my father
I love that.
instilled in me, you need to think about this here a minute. You need to have, what if you get hurt? I'm not going to get hurt. The older generation always thinks ahead. They think for you. And I didn't, none of that mattered. Like I said, I would have run away from home to do it. And I'm glad that, it took me some period of time, probably 10 years before I started to sink in, like, hey, I'm here, I'm no good. What am I going to do? I had a great support system, but yet at some point you want to stand on your own 2 feet. just like your family has, and create something for yourself. And my father and I, we started getting it. We got partners in the car wash business, and in 2004. So it was 7 years after I started, and I was, went to the bank and borrowed money to start the wash. And my father and me became partners, and just kind of seen how it all worked, and from a different perspective, even though my focus was 100% racing for my entire life. But then I could tell you, well, I'm going to race till I'm 70 years old. Well, I think we all know that's not realistic in our environment or any environment. So as you start to get involved in those things, you realize, hey, this is really a smart plan, because what if I do get hurt? What if something happens? What if I'm not good enough? There's a lot of what ifs that you really don't even want to ask yourself, but you should. And so I started down that path, and my father was very diverse, involved in a lot of things, not just the truck stop business, but he wanted to own his own properties, and he'd meet people that would be like, hey, I need a building. He'd say, yeah, I'll build you a building. I'll rent it to you. So we started into, commercial real estate and rental properties and all these things. Um, and it's done very well for him. It's the things that it allowed me to get started in racing, and we have our own team, and get us to the point where we were able to, hey, we got this opportunity to go racing with Tony Stewart and not have to be on the ownership side, so we can focus on our business and still go race at the highest levels that we want. It was like a no-brainer win-win situation. And when that happened, it allowed me to be home more, focus less on trying to manage a race team and people who don't want to be in North Dakota. North Dakota is my home. It's where I was born. It's where I'm going to die.
Way up there.
Yeah, it is. But home's home. And, that's so, um, I don't sit here and grind every day from 9 to 5. But part of it is being here. We have several properties to manage, not just here, but in Minot where we grew up. And, that was what my father took care of, all those things. It's whether it's maintenance in the parking lot every spring from snow melt or just wear and tear. When you have, 2 truck stops that are 40 acres in size each, and traffic going in and out of here every day, there's things that just to keep up on. It don't matter whether it's a water retention pond that's starting to slough on the walls, or you got culverts out, or there's always something that needs to be fixed. And that's something that, my father took care of all those things, and then things kind of come back to me, not just here, but in Minot and at all our properties too. And we still continue to build things, even a little more diverse. The latest builds have been basketball academies. Both my sisters have kids involved in basketball, so we have a basketball academy at each place, and some of the awesomest facilities in the country. So we always enjoy those things, but there's not just one single thing that I do. I enjoy being here, and I have something that'll keep me busy 7 days a week should I not race anymore. But racing's still me. It's still what I want to do, and thankfully, thanks to Saturday, I think it kind of creates a narrative that a lot of people have kind of said, hey, I think you're probably getting to the point where you should probably step away, but I'm not there yet.
No.
I might be older, but sometimes I might not push the issue as hard as I need to. If I'm running 16th, I'm not going to tear a car up. But that's just the way it goes. So there's a lot of aspects of life but I enjoy all of them. I kind of feel like right now, it seems like the more I have to do, the more on my plate, the easier it makes everything, because you make a decision, right or wrong. Actions have consequences. If you made a wrong one, you live with it. If you made a right one, you live with it. It's just the way it works. So I'm in a really good spot. I enjoy what I do.
So we call this Kenny Conversation because that means I get to talk too. So I've got to say that I admire you immensely. What I'm going to say right now could be considered, Kenny Wallace is corny. But listen, Donny, and I'm going to say this because a lot of people watch this show. I want all my dirt racing friends. I want Gordy Gundaker. I want Nick Hoffman. I want all the sprint car racers. I'm going to tell Charlie Marlowe, our YouTube manager, to edit this piece that you just said. You are the epitome of teaching these dirt racers what life is all about. You got truck washes, you got truck stops, you got real estate, you got baseball or basketball academies. And this makes it to where you have a freer mind. You can go racing. You're a great pilot. You own your own jet. You are what I want to be. I had real estate, and I can promise you that I made money in NASCAR. I had a lot of rental homes. I sold everything to David Reagan. I cashed out. I put it in the stock market. I'm kicking ass financially too. And I preach this to these, I call dirt daubers. My dear friends, I love them so much. Wearing the cargo shorts. And like you said, you would have become a bum if that's what you could do to stay dirt racing. I'll be a bum. I'll be a bum as long as I can just smell like ass and be at a dirt track. But then you get older and you become 60 years old and you're like, okay, I'm done racing and I still got to live. Donny, I admire you. I just wanted to get that out of my system. I know everybody has heard this part. This is an education for all dirt racers. Money's got to come from somewhere. It don't grow on trees. And Donny, just that's one. I like you too because you're good to me. You're always nice to me. But buddy, you got it going on. And that's part of my conversation. I wanted to get that out. One reason I wanted to interview you because I knew all this about you. You want to talk about racing now?
Yeah, I enjoy that. I enjoy that. I'm not going to lie. I've had a great career. I've made a lot of money.
You kick ass, buddy. You kick total ass.
A lot of the things that I'm able to do don't come from being around racing.
Right.
I don't have an airplane because of what I make racing. There's no question about that. So I guess, and there's some people that don't like it. That's fine. That's just the way the world turns.
I had a King Air 200 for years, buddy. You're my brother. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But that's right. Okay.
And now I got to think about the next generation. I got two nieces that want to race. In fact, I got one that just left here 2 minutes ago on her way to go race the sprint car tonight in Rock Rapids, Iowa. It's a 305. So, and I got one that wants to late model race. So, man, I think you can tell that's going to become an expensive proposition for me to keep two females racing. If that's what they choose to do. I hope not, but right now they're having fun. They're 15 years old and it's enjoyable to see them. The hard path for them is they see, like a lot of other people that I'm surrounded by, they see the success, but they didn't see the path. They didn't see the timeline.
They didn't see you broken down with an old white sprint car.
One of them standing in victory lane with me at Kings Royal, and I think she thinks, man, it'd be great to be here, but I don't think they really understand totally the entire path. It does not happen easy. It does not happen quickly, and it may never happen. That's an unfortunate part because there's a lot of people that are never going to have them opportunities to stand on those stages and get to that level. But to some people, it doesn't matter. They just want to race, and that's where we're in one of them industries and sports where if you're okay with that, that's great. And I think you have to have that attitude that you may never get there. I've raced against a lot of great people, grew up racing with a lot of great people they're good with that to this day, but they still had great careers. So it's a pretty humbling position.
I want to talk about your God-given talent. I talked to your boss about this, Tony Stewart. He was the first person on Kenny Conversation. So I want to draw attention to something that I see you do, and I want you to comment on it. So when the track gets extremely dry, and I saw you do this at the World Finals a lot, I'm a student of the sport, and I watch you. You have a talent that other drivers don't have. You're able to keep your car tracking straight on real wide corners. You don't go in there. You don't get it sideways. You don't hang it on the right rear. Hang, lose forward bite. Your ability, you play a beautiful piano. Your right foot, your braking, your eyes, your hands. What is it that you think? I know it's a God-given talent. What is it that you do, that rises you above the rest? When these tracks become extremely dry and you're able to track right through the middle, right through the slick, Do you know what you do?
I don't think that it's a God-given talent, Kenny. I think it's something that you acquire and it's something you learn. It comes back to, when I was younger, I wasn't like that. I mean, you talk to people where I grew up racing at Huset's, and they'll tell you I was good for 2 right rear wheels a week, one in the heat race and one in the feature hitting the fence, and I was good for a wing a night. I mean, I was tearing stuff up and bouncing off stuff, but when it was fast or when the track was fast and wet, I was just wide open, hammer down like what you see nowadays, and I tore up a lot of stuff. And I went to my very first PRI in Columbus, Ohio. That's how long ago this was. And I was with some guys that had taken me because my father couldn't go, so I was kind of like had babysitters basically. And we were in the hotel lobby of a hotel with a guy that I raced with up here, and there was a lot of, I mean, back then to me, everybody was a superhero. Um, Anybody you watched on TV was an incredible. I run into all these people, and I got introduced to the Hoosier people from this person, and the way he introduced me is, yeah, this is Donny Schatz. He's really good till it gets slick, and then he's
That
in
hurt your
trouble.
feelings.
It didn't hurt my feelings. It was a motivator. It was an eye opener, and I sat down and thought about it, and I think I laid in bed for 6 months thinking about it, and I thought, you know what, he's right. These races that pay the money, they're
One in
not
the
hammer
drive.
down wide open. When you have races, all the races that pay big money are all in the summer, all in the heat, and they're all slick. So if you don't learn how to race in the slick, you're probably not going to ever win any marquee events or anything, any money. So we started to work around on stuff. I've always raced with great people. I've had great crew chiefs all the way through my whole career, and I realized after having a couple of these guys, I'm like, I've had some of the best guys here, and um, I'm have the same result. So clearly, we know what the problem is. It's me. So you back yourself up to try to just start doing things. Yeah, you got to start figuring out how to get the car underneath you. You got to figure out how to drive it a different way. And I think when you're able to race 100 times a year, like we do with the World of Outlaws, that's like 100 test sessions. Because I wasn't capable of winning championships, so we just turned it into test mode.
Good
And
point.
for me, and I just kept doing different things that were uncomfortable until I got to a point where something worked. And once you get that feel figured out and what it takes to get there, that's what you strive for every night. I still strive for that feel, even though once you get it, it's very hard to get. But sometimes you can still get there. And obviously we didn't have that scenario on Saturday night. That was probably one of the most demanding 40-lap races I've ever been a part of, and choppy and rough, but still, there's still some of that same, the same things you do in the slick, like at Charlotte and the slick at
You had
Knoxville.
to keep it straight.
You got to keep it straight, and that's what a lot of it is. It's a fine line. It's like a double-edged sword, and I think if you ask some of the people that I've raced with, Rick Warner, any of the crew chiefs that have been with you, they'll tell you when you race with someone like that, their job is like them being on a double-edged sword. Like you're living on a razor blade. You know, you're trying to find that fine line, and if you're not on that fine line and good, you're completely terrible. So it's just the nature of the beast, and it makes it tough for those guys. But they've all done very well, and my guys today are doing a great job. It's if you ask Scuba, the last couple of years we're trying to get somewhere that some days you just can't get to, but that's what you strive for.
So when I race, I call them idiosyncrasies, things you just don't talk about because you're like, I don't know if anybody else does this, but whether I race NASCAR or Xfinity Series or a super late model, or now I'm in these mods, you and I have raced a lot of everything. Would you say that you got some idiosyncrasies that you just don't talk about because it's not worth talking about inside that car that make your car do some things you want it to do?
Yeah, I don't know. Not really. I guess I think there's times um, maybe of the fact that you're everybody talks about being comfortable in the car. I think comfortable in the car comes from a physical standpoint. We know we're safe. We know we have all these things in these cars. But it's kind of like when I started racing, when these cars went around, they're fast. we didn't have all these head supports. So a big thing was being able to run a whole race and hold your head up. Guys had straps. Today's environment doesn't have that. You know, some of these guys that are a buck 25 soaking wet, they got to lay their head on the pillow and just go like this.
I'm laughing.
That's exactly what it feels like. I'd love nothing more than, you know, come Saturday night to say, hey, you know, let's take the head surrounds off these things and let's see who can make 10 laps and hold their head up. I know I can because we grew up doing that. Steve Kinser was the same way. That's why all of us have necks that when we go to the doctor, they say, hey, you need to take the sleep apnea test. I'm like, I promise you, it's solid muscle. I don't have a sleep problem. But, you know, I don't know that you can have idiosyncrasies when things change like that. You know, the sport's evolving. You know, we all wear head and neck restraint. All these things that are a part of what it is. So, and when you race that much, I don't think I do, but maybe an outside source would tell you I do in some way, shape, or form.
You brought up Steve Kinser. Let's go at that. Let's address it quickly. So you're quickly closing in. You know, sometimes people get sad. You know, don't break Babe Ruth's record. Uh, don't become an 8-time Cup champion. Don't you dare be better than Richard Petty. You're my friend. Listen, I love Steve Kinser too. He's the king. We all know that.
As do I.
Just your thoughts. I want your thoughts
I'm
on
not,
the
you
team.
know, Kenny, it's never something that I ever dreamt about. I dreamed about winning. I dreamed about winning. I dreamed about winning a World of Outlaw race. I won a World of Outlaw race, and then I won a second one, and then I won another one. I dreamed about winning a Knoxville Nationals. I've dreamed about winning a Kings Royal, a National Open, a championship, all those things, and they kept going. And I'm very, very blessed for that. Very fortunate for that. But there's no one that's ever going to touch the ability of what Steve did, nor would you even compare anyone to him. He's won 600 races. He's forgot about more wins than I've ever won. His championships, yeah, I've been able to get to not equal him, but get near him on a big stage at the Kings Royal, the Knoxville Nationals, at the Williams Grove National Open. We've managed to get ahead of him, but it's not about that. It's if we could have him in today's environment, if we could have him racing, the young guys of today, it would make so many more of them so much better. I just feel lucky. I feel like some of him was able to teach me things and rub off on me because that's what you look at. You know, when you race against guys like him, you learn things from him. And it's not from beating him, it's from getting beat by him. And we all got beat by him for the longest time. You know, like I said, I'm fortunate for that. I wish he was still around, but he's not. There was a day coming. I actually got to call him a teammate at the end of his career, and that was really neat because I know what it's like to have people come along and they rival you. And not that someone stages it, but because it just happens. And Steve and I had that. Like I was winning races, and he was wanting to win races, and we became teammates. And even though we had utmost respect for each other, it was trying to beat each other literally. And I think that excelled both of us. So, like I said, I'm fortunate to have raced against him, and I hope that maybe the things that I was taught from him and the things people see are things that maybe the younger generation today is able to get from me. So, you know, I know back in those days, it was a different level of respect when you raced. If you went and ran over him, I can assure you the conversation was up in front of the truck and no one had a camera phone catching it. And then the next day you were having to explain why you had a black eye or why you had a puffy cheek. We don't have those times anymore. And, you know, I guess you had to dot your I's and cross your T's and you raced a certain way. And that day's no longer, but it is what it is. So, like I said, I'm just honored to have been able to learn from him and have him in the sport. And he has set the goalposts, and there's no one ever going to move those goalposts. There's no one ever even going to get close to those goalposts. So, what we have done, I'm pretty honored about.
That is emotionally awesome to hear. I agree with you. Let's just touch on the World of Outlaw, the legend, Uh, the legendary World of Outlaws. You know, Wolfgang, Wolfie, Opperman. I mean, these names. You know, I can go on and on. You know, one of my best friends in life lives 30 minutes from me is Kenny Schrader. Uh, when me and Schrader would drink beer, and I wouldn't know who the person is because Kenny Schrader knows I'm an asphalt dude. But, you know, I've been running dirt now for about 17 years. Well, somebody would come up and it'd be an older gentleman. Schrader would give me a shortcut. After he'd get done drinking his beer, he'd point, he'd say, hero, hero. Whether it's Bobby Marshall, you know, the late Bobby Marshall, the original World of Outlaws. So my question to you is the original World of Outlaws versus the Pennsylvania Posse, that whole thing there. Have we lost it, or is it still around?
It's still around. I think it's still the best racing. But if you look back and if you knew Ted Johnson and you knew how he did things, was there a little bit of smoke and mirrors? Maybe.
Ted
But
Johnson, the owner, the original World
yeah, the
Outlaw
original owner.
man.
The thing was he had Steve Kinser, he had Sammy Swindell, he had all the greats. But if there was a night where Steve Kinser blew a motor in the dash and it looked like he was going to have a hard time getting out for the feature, the fans didn't want to not have a race with Steve Kinser in it. So miraculously the lights went out.
I love this.
And that's and that happened many times. But you got to understand it. That's part of the entertainment side. I think in today's environment, it's kind of like when you watch the Chili Bowl. When you talk about entertainment, and I'm not knocking the Chili Bowl by any means, but they say if you're going to fight, let's do it on the racetrack so we can put it on TV and let people watch. Well, what are we watching this for? We're watching it for racing.
Yeah.
So I don't condone promoting fighting, and I think sometimes the entertainment side gets a little like, you know, they neglect if the racing side, and I think that's something that Ted Johnson definitely was the biggest race fan. And when he left the track every night, he wanted to say, damn, that was awesome. He didn't care if it was Steve won or lost, but the fans got a great show. Whether he started in the back, started wherever, that was his product. His product was real, and it wasn't like WWE staged. We get into some of that nowadays. We want the perfect storyline. We want these things. And I'm not saying it's fixed, but there's a lot of things that you have to ask questions. How did the stars line up on this one? Not just today, but tomorrow and the day before. So it's kind of odd how that it's changed, and you know, you just have to deal with it. But I still have that look back, and I think about Ted all the time and how he did things. What would Ted do? What would Ted do? And we all know what Ted would do, and he was ultimately the biggest race fan. And if it meant go out there and redo the track to put on a great show, you do it. You do whatever it takes.
So I do this to everybody. I got all these notes because I admire you, and I haven't got to one of them. That's how fun this is for me. So you bring up a good point. As an asphalt racer, if you have a flat tire, that means you're unlucky and you're out, or, you know, we're going green flag. One thing that I noticed and that I do admire, I like this, is that all of you with the World of Outlaws, you're on the road all year long. It's like, hey, I'm going from track to track. Give me a break. The World of Outlaws, you have a flat tire. They throw the caution, and it's like, let him get his tire changed and let him start in the back, because this is the World of Outlaws. They all want to see. We've seen you guys come from the back to the front. Just your thoughts on something that I didn't grow up with, but I know why they do it. I admire. So my question is, flat tire, caution comes out, you change it, race starts over. That's the way you all do it.
It's just the way they've always done it. They want to get you back out. I mean, when you race 85 nights a year, it'd be a slap in the face to travel the country coast to coast twice and you know, leave you sit some night because you don't have a flat tire. But I can tell you, it would make guys race a whole lot different. But then there comes in that factor of, you know, local guys versus outlaw guys.
Mm.
You know, that's been a huge thing forever. Do they do it for everybody, or do we just do
Do
it
they
for the
give a local
traveling
guy a
guys?
break? I've never
What's that?
noticed that.
No, but I'm saying that the reason they do it is for points chasers. And when a local guy comes to your race, he's not really chasing points. He's just there for that night, trying to do, you know, win a race or have a respectable finish. So, you know, it is what it is. It's always been that way, and I guess I don't have a problem with it. They don't allow you to do it after halfway. They don't wait for you, so it
Mm.
could come into a factor for a championship at some point. I don't know that it has realistically, but you know, the fans come to see a race. Let them race. You know, it's. But then if it drags a show out some night where we got a 2 hour feature because 40 guys have changed tires twice, you know, it gets to be a little bit of a hiccup too. But
Yeah.
I like to not be on the side of those making those rules or being a part of that, but they've just done that forever.
Yeah, well, that's good stuff. All right, we got to get back to Eldora. We're 42 minutes into this, and we haven't even talked about you being King Donny. $175,000. You're going to get half. We've already de-bullshitted this with a lot of people. I don't know what you're going to get. Doesn't matter. People are amazed with money, Donny. Money is so famous now. Money. Oh, money. Oh, money. $1 million to win, Logan Schuhart. You know, uh, Davenport, Superman in the late models, $1 million to win. All of you out at Houston, it's quarter of a million dollars to win. Money. When and what is going on? I love it. I think it's awesome, but I want to hear your opinion. What's going on in the sport? It's everywhere now. Everything's 50,000 to win, and I mean over the last 2 years. What made this change? Where's all the money coming from now?
It's competition. It's competitions among different series. You know, you got the All Stars are out there. You got the World of Outlaws. You got Kyle Larson and Brad's new high limits things. It's one has to keep up with the other. I mean, it's just like you look at late model racing. They have two premier series that race against each other, so they have all these high dollar paydays. Quite often, it's one trying to outdo the other. It's one trying to compete against the other. It's just like what we do every day, day in and out, compete against another person. So I think it's great to see. I'm not sure that we'll see a million to win show again, but I look at that and just, I mean, believe you me, I'd never throw a rock at doing it, but it's like, man, if that was my racetrack, I think I'd be nervous as all get out. Because if you look at the money that was paid out last week, there was over $2 million paid out at Eldora last week, and that's absolutely insane. I'm sure it takes all his big shows to be able to do that one week. So it really is Tony's kind side saying, I want to give back to dirt racing for giving to me, for supporting me and his fans and all that stuff. But the paydays that are out there are they're getting up there and they're incredible. But I kind of look at it like this, Kenny. When I was looking the other night, we did an autograph session up at the barn. Someone said, someone's going to win $1 million. I said, look down there in that infield. Look down there. Guy goes, yeah? What about it? I said, there's over $150 million worth of equipment sitting in there. So is racing for $1 million really look that grand? No.
It
And
becomes
that's just
relative, right?
that's the business side of it. That look at the money that it takes to be able to do that. So when the monies get up there, it's warranted. I mean, you know how much everything costs. Everything's gone through the roof with everything over and over and over. So um, it's warranted. But then there's only one guy that gets it, and you know, I guess we didn't get in on the million, but that's just the way it works. That's the way racing is. You don't cry over spilt milk. I
I
feel pretty
use
good
that
right now
one.
that we were able to leave Eldora with the second largest payday of the weekend and of the year. So that's a pretty decent thing. So we'll make the best of it, and hopefully that money stays there. But I think a lot of it's driven from competition. You got series competing against each other, and there's nothing wrong with competition. That's what they want us to do on the racetrack every day is compete and put on the best show. Well, if that's what puts on the best show on the racetrack, then off the racetrack having competition is good too.
Yeah, I like everything you said there. What caught my ear, what you said is don't look at more $1 million to win shows. Do you think that was rare? Do you think we'll see more $1 million to win shows
I
next
don't
year?
I don't think we will. I think it'll be several years before we do, but I could be wrong. We don't, Tony and I don't speak about those things when we're together. Our time is limited. And, lately I've been getting up to speed on what drag racing is all about. So, I think because they
That's
had
good.
because they had a late model race at $1 million, I think it was only justified they did a sprint car race. So you don't have that politically correct, not politically correct scenario. And, but I don't think we'll have one next year. If we do, well, kudos to him for figuring out a way to do it. But I don't think it'll be for several years again.
Okay, this is like a movie. Let's go back to the start. So when you won the King's Royal, you said in your interview after the race that, it's been a tough year on me. We haven't been running the way I want to. You said we went upstairs. I don't know if that means in your truck or trailer. Trailer, and you went after an old school setup, and you went through the holes, you went through the mud, and you shot straight the whole way through the corners. You weren't out of control. You have great driving ability. What did you mean by that when you went back old school?
Well, through the development of the Ford Motor Program, you make changes as you go as to what evolves. And from when it started, which was really good, we've just made some changes and had some direction that obviously we didn't go the right way. And I haven't been able to get anything to accelerate for the last couple of months. And in the summer heat, it's gotten worse. And so we've had a car and a motor upstairs in the trailer that we've hauled around the last 3 years. It's some of the older stuff that was more original, that just for a spare car. If we tear a car up one night, we pull it down and run it, we put it back up there and build a new one after that. And after running through 3 or 4 motors the first 3 nights, Scuba said, you know what, I'm out of options here. I don't know what to do. I guess we pull the upstairs car down and see if the old one runs. And I think the engine builder actually told him, he's like, you guys won't even make the show with that thing. Well, you've seen what happens. So it's just the direction that we went. It's hard to run 85 nights a year, Kenny, in different tracks and sizes and airs and all these things, and then feel like you got to be an engineer on too, and make the decision as to what we're going to do direction wise. And so we just kind of went back to old school where it all started. And obviously we've since won that race, kind of revisited that direction as to what we're going to do going forward. So I'm just glad we were able to do that and have something happen. And because that thing it ran really good. And
And
the
have
car
the
worked really
nerve
good.
to do that.
Yeah. But at that point, Kenny, we ran 7th the first 2 nights there. We ran 16th the third night, but that wasn't anything to do with other than us just trying something completely silly that went the wrong way. So after that, and that's what you do. I called it a Hail Mary, and that's basically what it was. And so the Hail Mary won us the King's Royal, but it's also given us a new direction as to what we need to do to try to get ourselves more competitive and more consistent day in, day out.
So I'm going to say something, and maybe I'm wrong. Let's say I'm wrong, but I'm going to say it, and then you respond to it. In the World of Outlaws, with the wings, you need massive amount of torque. In a heat race, it's wet. You qualify, you line up, you drop the green flag, and whatever you're going to get most likely is going to be through turns 1 and 2 at the start of the race. And then after that, you follow the leader. And then you got to wait for the A main for everything to dry out to start passing. You're telling me that you went back upstairs, got this motor. So out of everything I just said there, can you shed light on, am I wrong or what's up?
No, we just took out the whole car. It was the spare
car. The whole damn car.
We just took the whole car out. It was a brand new car. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't, but that was our spare car. It was a brand new car, and it had that older motor in it. And I thought it was 2 years old, but it was really 3 years is what the configuration was. It
Breaking news.
Something back from, when Andy still did the motors. So
did it have more torque?
I don't know what the torque numbers were, Kenny. All I can tell you is what I feel on my foot when I move the pedal both directions. And I think what caught us off was we were trying to work on the Fords have a ton of power, a lot of power, and we were trying to corral some of that at the end of the straightaway where we were having trouble, and we lost focus on we still got to get there. They always had a little problem getting going, and we needed to work on that too, as well as try to get them under control. So we just obviously made changes to the not the right direction, and we pulled that motor out, and it was kind of a reset for everybody to be able to say, hey, obviously in these conditions at that racetrack, the way the summer air is, that's what we need to do. And believe me, there's a lot of things different about that, but that's just live and learn. When you're part of a program like that, that's part of the give and take. And believe me, there's been a lot of give, and it feels like not enough take some days, but hey, it is what it is. We snuck away from Knoxville with a win last year. We got a Kings Royal win. Hopefully we can take something from both of those and try to put together what we need to be more consistent so we can get back to racing for a championship every night.
I went through this exact situation with my Toyota motors. I was with them for 7 years. I had so much power, but I could never feel it exiting. It was all at the start finish line, blew my tires off. I'm like, get me back there to the middle of the corner. I don't care about that high number.
Sprint car racing. We got to get going.
Yeah, give me some torque. So we got that done. Well, Donnie, we're at 52 minutes already. Let me ask a fun question here. What is it like? We don't see very many sports where when you win the Kings Royal, they put that cape on you. They put that hat on you. What's it feel like when they do that?
Kenny, the first time I did it, you'd watched it happen. So when it happens to you, you're pretty in awe. You're like, man, I got all these people watching. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. It make you feel a little silly putting a crown on, but everyone wants to stand there and do that. I was just in awe. I've won that race before, but standing there, being able to do it, it's just like, man, I just in awe because our performance, I didn't feel like leading up to that was warranted for being able to sit on that throne and wear that cape and take that crown and be able to win that race. But all it takes is a hard reset like that to get in that position. So it really kind of messes with your emotions as to the night before I was 16th, racing for 16th, and tonight I just won the Kings Royal. That's what's in the back of your mind. It's not instantly celebrate and go hog wild, and then you're sitting there I was thinking, man, what do we got to do to make sure we're get that thing for Wednesday and Friday and Saturday? Obviously that, you're thinking about what it takes to what got you there and make sure we can incorporate that because you only get a couple minutes after the race is over really to think about
all of this right
your
away.
Car was doing or this or that, and then it's time to celebrate and do all the formalities. And sometimes it's hard to struggle those emotions. It's not like your phone. You can pull your phone out and start taking notes as to what you're thinking right then and there. You got to keep them in your mind. And I've been hit a few too many times to keep all that stuff in my mind. So, it was pretty surreal, really. It's pretty awesome to be in that position.
Well, that's warranted because you see Logan Schuchart, who won the $1 million. He missed the race. He did not qualify. Track conditions. Brad Sweet missed the race. He says Brad Sweet said, I don't remember the last time I missed an A-main. So I understand why you would think that way. It's very humbling. But Donnie, you're still the man. You're 45 years young, not old. You've reminded everybody, you get what you need. And we know, like you said, the sport's very competitive. It's not like we go winning. That's not what we call it. So you're still the man. With that being said, we know that Knoxville is the number one most prideful race for you all. And then we know Eldora is second. I'm still confused on what is third. I don't know. In your opinion, what is the third event that you all consider the one?
I think it used to be the Lernerville Silver Cup. It used to have when I started racing. Yeah, Lernerville used to be. We don't even go there anymore with the World of Outlaws. So that's kind of went by the wayside. But It's hard to say. The National Open at Williams Grove is a really big payday, and it has a lot of history. And man, that place is tough to win at. So it's probably, the National Open right now, and they've done a great job of making it a bigger marquee event with a decent payday. And I've been fortunate to win that a few times. So, and then there's Gold Cup at Chico. There's so
Chico.
many. Yeah, Chico's got the Gold Cup back. Brad promotes that, and they run the racetrack
Legendary
there.
place.
Yeah, it is. It's one of my. It's not my favorite because I've been on fire there, and it just seems like you go there, I just can't get out of my own way. It's like can't get out of sight on a dark night some days, but that's just the way it goes at certain places. But we have been able to win the Gold Cup a couple times, so that was pretty neat. But we're building these new events. Will the Million be again? I don't know. I think if it comes back, it can only build on what it had, but it's hard to say. We keep building events all the time, and that competition is what's doing that. So I just hope that regardless what happens, they just continue to have that competition.
Donny, we're at the end now, my friend, and I like to end with something nice. So when we do these, we hope the young kids watch these, and we hope that they learn a little bit. So this is going to catch you off guard, but Greg Dethridge is a dear friend of mine. My brother, Rusty Wallace, used to race his father down there at Pocola, Oklahoma. And I was a kid. We raced there every Saturday night. I'm from Missouri. So it was Springfield, Missouri on Friday nights, Fort Smith, Arkansas, Saturday nights. But the story is this. And I got a new thing. It's called The Story in the Garage Area. Okay. So here's the story in the garage area right now. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he wants me to, but I'm over at Tri-City Speedway in Granite City, Illinois on Friday night. This last Friday night. Good race car driver walks up to me. He said, I watched your conversation with Jonathan Davenport. He said, I went ahead and went and got some glasses. Man, I can see a lot better now. Donny, there are drivers out there that need glasses and don't damn know it. I mean,
there is, Kenny, and I wore glasses for a long time. It's not that your eyes are bad, but the shades of the colors of dirt and this and that. And I've worn them for a long time. And actually, as you spoke of Greg there, I just started wearing his optics.
He told me.
And JD's the one that told me. JD told me last fall at Charlotte there. He's like, man, you got to get this guy does something with his lenses. It's like high def. It's like wearing high definition. And JD and I we both won Charlotte, so we were having a little fun in the hotel lobby. And
glasses win races.
Well, being able to see a little bit better than everyone else allows you to win races. And the one thing that you can never get back is your eyesight. So you want to make sure you stay on top of it. But yeah, Greg's done a great job. I just got my new progressives here. So when I work, I have to wear stuff to see close or distort. Right. So I got my new progressives where they go down into a little bit of bifocal, but I'm having a hard time getting used to them. But on the racetrack, I'm wearing the regular ones, and they're pretty incredible. So if you have any questions about vision, you'd best be getting you some glasses.
Yeah, and this, I think the reason I bring it up is I've just seen so much going on now with Joey Logano, yourself, Jonathan Davenport, so many racers wearing glasses now and winning championships and races. So thank you for telling us your story there. The fans always want to know the things that are private. But listen, that's it, my friend. We could go another hour. Donny, thank you.
We'll do her again, much. Kenny. Let's do her again.
All right. Well, thank you so much, buddy. And remember, everybody, we are in podcast form. You can check us out on iTunes or Spotify. These big shows are always an hour long. Listen to it on the way to work. Shut it off and listen to it again on your way back home. Until then, Kenny Conversation keeps on rolling.
Thank you, Kenny.